Welcome, everyone, as we explore the pathway to awakening, to our enlightenment, and to the enlightened path. Let's take a few moments and meditate to a beautiful piece of music that I like from Zazen. This is from the Mandala of Light album. And this particular song is called Lord Vishnu's Forest Vision. Take a nice breath, relax. A few months ago, I made the announcement that things were going to get better and that we were witnessing a birth and that it might take a while. I thought a couple of weeks. Obviously not, but the change is coming. There's a new world coming for us. But in order for us to experience what's about to happen, we need to raise our vibration to a certain level. And it's hard to talk about this sort of thing without it coming across as some sort of fear. I don't believe in using fear. My experience is that when you go into enlightenment, there's no fear there. It's just gone. So when you're telling people that they need to watch what they're thinking or that things are going to be bad, well, that's kind of setting them up, I think. So let's talk about what's coming up. In order for something to change, completely transform itself, the old has to be broken down. Now, this is true what's going on now politically. It's also true what's going on with how we've been treating the earth itself. We're getting the climate change, slapping us in the face. We're experiencing social craziness, really. Whether it's in religion, where people are using religion to do all kinds of horrible things to each other and make terrible decisions. We see it in our politics. We see it everywhere. What we have here is we have God manifesting the intention and the will through everyone and everything. When we first start this journey of awakening, we start very, very dark. There's no, it's like pre-life. You're just in this area where there's nothing, and then you start experiencing the nothing, which itself is the beginning, the experience of nothing. Before there was not even nothing, then there was the experience of nothing. And from the experience of nothing arose the emanations of creation. We began exploring enlightenment, both deaf and blind, and numb to any feelings. And as we progressed over the eons, our awareness and everything started to play on itself. In this life, I've stepped into a world that is basically run by people who are not awakened. They're operating in terrible, terrible ways, using fear and control and domination to manipulate people, to control people, to dominate them, manipulate them, and just scare the hell out of them. If you look at the news, it's all about fear. Even if there's good news, they somehow manage to make it fearful. And that's because fear works in this earth. Fear really works here. If you look at all the religions, you'll see that they pretty much say, if you follow our path, you go to heaven, and if you don't, you go to hell. And that's basically uh, true and not true at the same time. Stop your thought. You're thinking too much. There you go. I'm just saying words. There's something beyond the words. You're here to wake up. You've been caught up in the dream of this earth. You've been caught up in the samsara, the dreams of others, the dreams of the earth itself. You're here just for a few short decades. In those few short decades, you learn about yourself, others, and you maybe start to awaken a little bit to your spiritual nature. It's only when you awaken to your spiritual nature that you can find freedom. Otherwise, it's all folly. No matter what you get and what you gain, it will fall away. The only thing that will last any time at all is what you have gained in awareness of awakening. Lifetime after lifetime, we come in and we learn one or two little lessons. The rest of the time, we're just mucking around in the darkness and our deafness, stepping on others and hurting them, not even knowing we're doing it. Suffering arises out of ignorance, and the ignorance is that we are not aware of each other or our impact. We're not aware of what we intend and the will that we have behind that intention creates our view and our experience of this reality. Your reality is different from anyone else's. When somebody tells you to get real, all they're telling you is to line your reality with how I'm seeing things. I want you to get real, get to my reality. Well, getting real is your reality. And your reality shifts all the time. It shifts with new insight, with new knowledge, with new experiences. You may be raised a racist, and you spend most of your life as a racist. And then one day you meet somebody of the race that you've not liked, and you get to know them. And suddenly they're not the monsters you were told they were. And you overcome it because you see differently. You woke up a little bit. You've come out of your sleep. Waking up is what we're here for. What are you waking up to? Well, you're waking up to your spiritual nature. You're waking up to that part of you that is eternal, that goes from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, without stopping, without failing. One lifetime ends, you start the next one. The things that you have learned in the past life, the lessons that you learned, you take with you. The ones that you didn't learn, or the ones that you created bad karma because you did on purpose, decided it would be fun to just hurt people, to watch them squirm. When you see that, you take that in your next life. You get to deal with all of those karmas. Nothing's left out. We're so caught up in this life that we think that if people do something bad here, then they should experience bad here. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes they don't experience it for several lifetimes, but they do experience it. We all experience our karmas, 100%. But there is a strange thing that goes on in spiritual practice. And that strange thing is redemption. It's not something you hear very often in the New Age community, is redemption. Redemption is recognizing that you've done something terribly wrong, that you've hurt people, you've said things that have harmed others, or you've stolen, or you've done something that's hurt others. And you realize that. And you will have the karmas of that unless you make it right. Christ instructed people who were having that realization that they had hurt people when he told them to, if you took $7 from somebody, I'm paraphrasing, if you took $7 from somebody 5 years ago, took it off their coffee table, they didn't know it. Now you know, I stole from them. So the way you redeem yourself is you go back and you hand them $70, 10 times. And you say, 5, 6 years ago, I took $7 from you. I was wrong. And I'd like you to forgive me. And as part of that forgiveness, I'd like for you to take this 70 to help you to forgive me. If you've hurt somebody, it's up to you to mend that fence. You can say, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to apologize to them in this life. Well, maybe you won't. Maybe you won't. But you will. Why do you have to make amends? Because it's God. Everything is God. There is nothing that is not the divine. Anyone you see is God in the flesh. Every experience you have is the experience of God through your eyes and through the eyes of others, and through no eyes at all. So when you start realizing your oneness with God, that there is only one God that's everywhere present, then everyone is part of you. The Bodhisattva vow says, I will not become enlightened until all sentient beings attain enlightenment. Well, that takes place inside of you. You're the one that sees things as not being part of the enlightenment of God. I'm not saying that bad actors are okay. I mean, they're creating suffering through their ignorance. But when you awaken, you quit suffering. You quit doing bad things. When I was a child, I played like a child. But when I grew up, I put away my childish things. When I became awakened, I quit doing the things that I did before. And to the degree that I can clean up what I did before, I do it. Because it's me, it's my life, it's my soul, it's my experience of the oneness of God. That if I hold any animosity, any anger, anything against you, that's in me. If I feel I have to control you, to dominate you, to manipulate you to do what I want you to do, that's in me. There's a better way, there's a higher way. To realize that you are one with the divine is nothing that is not new. It's always been that way. You've always been one with the divine. How could you be otherwise? However, ignorance creates suffering, and we are ignorant of that knowledge, of that awareness that we are oneness with God. We are ignorant of the fact that this divine presence is in everything that we see, everything we breathe, everything we do. That it's all one divine spirit. And how I react and move inside that spirit is how I experience my reality. If I'm coming from fear, if I'm coming from anger, if I'm coming from lack, if I'm coming from selfishness, I create that reality. And I suffer. That's why we seek to awaken. Awaken to the oneness of everything. Awaken to the path of higher intention. Doing the correct thing, not because people will think we're great and wonderful and that we're, they'll write books about us. That's just nonsense. You do it because you're doing it to yourself. You have to look beyond the effect into the cause. I'm not saying that if you become enlightened, you never suffer. You do suffer. I mean, just ask Christ. I mean, he had a bad day. He had a pretty tough life, actually. Just because you're enlightened doesn't mean that you don't experience pain. In fact, that's part of the process here, isn't it? Suffering causes you to wake up. So we're in a world of suffering. So maybe this is a world for awakening. If things were easy, if you didn't have any problems, if everything was always beautiful and happy, you'd never change. But when you're going along and suddenly this tower that you've built of your life is so wonderful and so magical, and suddenly the tower has fallen down and you're cast to the ground, in that moment where everything is coming apart, if you're wise, you'll turn your attention to your higher self and say, what next? With a smile. Letting go of this life and all this in, it's easy. We do it all the time when we die. We've died thousands of times. We've had thousands of lifetimes. We just don't remember them. That's what I've been talking about. We're here blind and deaf and dumb. But as we awaken, then life becomes different for us. I still experience the same climate change that was there before. Nothing's really changed, except that I see a greater movement. I see people waking up, walking away from ignorance, walking away from fear. And those that embrace ignorance and embrace fear will be taken into their reality. It's not a reality I need to be a part of. I know it's there, and I know it's a result of not being on the path. And I also know that every one of those people will eventually get on the path if they suffer enough. Have you suffered enough? Are you willing to set aside some time to explore your spiritual nature? We have 7 billion people on this earth, plus. I predict that every one of them will be dead within 150 years. That's 7 billion people dying in 150 years. Of course, there'll be new people being born, but that's a lot of death. That's a lot of people leaving, and you're one of them. You're only here for a little while. Meditate. Awaken. Wake up. Buddha called this the nightmare of the day. Wake up from it. The pathway of awakening is wonderful, magical. You start touching beautiful things. Your experience of this world becomes one of heaven instead of hell. It's your choice. You choose what you want. If you're fascinated with anger, and fear, and aggressive behavior, if you're fascinated with that, if you love to manipulate people and get them to do what you want them to do, or you think, they don't know you're doing it, but you're making them do it underneath, how sneaky. If you dominate them, they do something you don't like, you scream and yell at them, control them. That's the recipe to go into a hell world. Your experience of life will not be good. You will be full of suffering. If you focus on the highest and the best, you'll still experience some suffering, but it won't be that bad. It'll just be physical or emotional. Oh my goodness. It's very difficult for me to talk about what I'm seeing. You're always a choice to choose your experience. If you focus on the highest and the best, if you're always trying to be happy, to bring comfort to others, if you're helpful, you live a different life than someone who's not. Look around at people who aren't like that. Look at their life. Some people are so caught up in anger. And if you around them and you're empathetic a little bit, you start seeing the hell world they are in. It's a terrible, terrible place. Fear is the same thing. Wake up. Take some time, a little bit of time every day to focus on God. I have kind of a funny little technique that I put together in that I take my consciousness, my conscious mind, where I'm thinking or where my consciousness is. And I've created a little Barca lounger chair right here at the base of the skull. I'm sitting in that chair right back here. And I'm watching my heart, and I look at my throat, look at my third eye. Sometimes I look at my crown from this little spot. I'm just sitting there meditating, watching my heart open up, opening up my throat, focus on the third eye, the crown. I do it again until I reach a point where I've got them all together. And when I have everything open, I let go. And then when thoughts come, still in my little Barca lounger chair here, Go back. Any disturbing thoughts, any things that are fearful or concerning, put it here, dissolve it into love. Dissolve everything into the void. Just put it into the void. If it goes into the void, there's nothing for it to stick to, so it cannot exist. It can't fight you, it can't hurt you, can't come back. It's gone. Put it in the void. Let it go. Imagine love, unconditional love. And then open up my heart, throat, third eye again. Start the process until it's all one. Stop and let go. So we do these meditation techniques to awaken that part of us that has been asleep most of our life. As you meditate on your heart, which is your intention, this is where you keep your intention. If you want a mantra to go with it, it's pretty simple mantra actually. Imagine your lungs as being billows. That's the mantra for the heart. The mantra for the throat is the vocal cords. Hum, hum. Mantra for the third eye is Om. Om. So we practice this, and we practice stopping our thought and surrendering and immersing ourselves in spirit. You're trying to immerse your consciousness just for a few minutes into the divine. Taking all thoughts and considerations that come up, dissolving them, opening your heart, opening your throat, opening your third eye again, and stopping your thought. Until soon, you will find when you're doing this that you'll be going there and will be moving beyond this world. And that's the beginning. When you come back to here, you start cleaning up your life. If I took $7 from you without asking, and I give you 70 back, when I die, I'm not going to feel like I didn't clean it up. I cleaned it up. If I was in a relationship and I hurt you, then I need to ask you to forgive me. I was ignorant. I didn't know what I was doing, but that still doesn't mean I didn't hurt you. Seek forgiveness. Let go of it. All of this will go away. This world and everything in it will go away when you die. But you will still exist. You just won't exist with this ego. You won't exist with all of these trappings of your job and your marriage and your single life or whatever you have. However you're defining your reality, it all goes. But you will remain. And you will reincarnate. And the things that you did not work out, be there waiting for you to work them out. And the things that you did work out will also be waiting for you, but because you've worked them out in previous lives, it's not an issue this life. So it's important every lifetime to clean things up, to become awakened to yourself, to your higher self, to the divine. to the recognition of the oneness of all, and that this is a dream, and you want to know who the dreamer is. You want to move beyond this dream into the dreamer, into the divine presence, the divine love, infinite in scope. The word vast doesn't even come close to it. The dissolution of the self into perfect, complete, total love. There's more to meditating than just saying a mantra. From my point of view, meditation is connecting to your higher self, to the divine. Losing yourself in spirit totally, leaving nothing behind. Just let it go. Don't take it with you. Leave everything there. Past, present, and future. Just here for a while. Make the best use of your time. When nobody's watching, sit down and meditate. Imagine that little comfortable chair you're sitting there, or maybe imagine yourself sitting under the Bodhi tree, lotus position. Doesn't matter. But imagine being right there and focusing on your beautiful heart. Noticing that all of your life springs forth from this intention. This is where you live. Your intention being made manifest through your will into reality. But to connect that process with the divine is to transcend this earth, to transcend this life. And then to come back in a perfect union. Now, this is a task worth doing. The realization of oneness, of everything being one, is something that you should awaken to as quickly as possible. And then live your life accordingly. Om. Good luck in your meditation. Try to set up a practice that's fairly consistent. It's not like you're spending hours a day, just a few minutes in the morning, a few minutes before you go to sleep at night. Find a method or a practice that fits you. But start spending a little bit of your time, a little bit of your intention and will on focusing on the higher self, on focusing on the divine, on focusing beyond this earth, beyond this lifetime, beyond this form. Just spend a little bit of time every day doing that. Pretty soon, a little flame will start that will consume you. Don't put this off. Life is very short here. It ends much quicker than you think it will. So good luck with all of this. Namaste.